Released in 2003 on his album Chicken and Beer, Splashwater Falls is an explicit single performed by Atlanta area rapper Luda. My bad. We're not talking about that Splashwater Falls. We're talking about this Splashwater Falls. Or at least what's left of it. Which obviously isn't much. Operating from 1986 until 2018, Splashwater Falls is a Hopkins shoot-the-chute ride that soaked riders for 32 years. Oh, and let's not forget about the occasional passerby naive enough to cross this bridge at the wrong time. The ride has a capacity of 20 riders and plunged them from a height of 50 feet. In typical Six Flags fashion, the ride sat dormant for nearly 3 years before demolition began. And much of the concrete still remains to the day of recording this. In fact, remnants of this ride will remain far beyond the addition of any replacement attraction. To the eyes of a casual viewer, these concrete footers seen here will appear to belong to the neighboring Dahlonega mine train. While one of the rides lives on, it'll subtly remind enthusiasts and longtime parkgoers of what once stood beside it. Okay, enough about the history of the ride, because I'm sure you hear to speculate about what might be coming to replace it. It has been rumored for some time now that Six Flags will be looking to add a coaster to this plot of land. And with FunSpot Atlanta's recent earth-shattering news, that's now almost a guarantee. The park is seeing its first ever threat of competition in the area, and they have to make a splash. First, let's look at the park lineup to determine what's missing, and what the park already has covered. Joker's Funhouse and Dahlonega Mine Train check the Kitty and Family boxes. Batman checks the invert one. Superman Ultimate Flight and Georgia Scorcher add some spice to the park as popular flying and stand-up coasters respectively. This park has an elite hyper with Goliath, and the state's only RMC, for now, with Twisted Cyclone. The park also has a pair of looping coasters in Blue Hawk and Mindbender. Whenever the park decides to open it. Oh, and no one is going to call it the Riddler Mindbender, but okay. Finally, the park also checks the wooden coaster box with the Great American Scream Machine, even if it is a bit outdated. And let's not forget Daredevil Dive and its S-tier capacity for such a major park. Looking over the park's lineup, it's only missing a few things. Notably, the park's missing a launch coaster, but also a modern wooden coaster and a spinning coaster. This plot of land doesn't make much sense for a wooden coaster, so I'm narrowing this down to either a launch or spinning coaster to be added here, or both. The park hasn't had a launch coaster since 2001 with the removal of Viper, which is the only launch coaster to operate in the 57-year history of the park, and the park has never been home to a spinning coaster. So let's get into this. What coaster is coming to Six Flags Over Georgia in 2022 or 2023? I've come up with 5 options that I believe would all make perfect sense with not only the lineup in this park, but in the region as a whole. I decided to rank these coasters on a scale of least to most likely. So coming in at number 5, an S&S launch coaster. While I previously did not view this as a likely option here, due to the issues with Max Force and the size of this plot of land, the recent news out of Fiesta, Texas, and their addition of a record-breaking B&M dive coaster may make a more significant addition here more likely. Dr. Diabolical's cliffhanger is definitely not anything to scoff at, and maybe, just maybe, is a sign that Six Flags is turning a corner when it comes to spending. All in all, an S&S launch coaster here would make sense due to Six Flags' relationship with S&S, and that it fills a blaring gap in this park's lineup. Number 4, an S&S 4D free spin. I know, everybody's favorite addition to their home park. Looking at you, Airtime Mike, and the one that the Six Flags chain hands out like it's candy. It may seem like a cop-out choice here because these are likely additions at any park. Heck, not even Cedar Fair parks are safe from these anymore. But if we look at a map of these rides, the free spins in the United States are located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, Six Flags Great Adventure, Six Flags Over Texas, Six Flags Great America, Six Flags New England, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, Adventureland, and now King's Dominion. The closest to Six Flags Over Georgia will be the one being added at King's Dominion, which is over an 8-hour drive away and nearly 600 miles away. Whether it goes on this plot of land or not, it's only a matter of time before one of the Georgia parks adds one of these rides. Number 3, an RMC Raptor. Obviously, this is not a launch or a spinning coaster, but the size of the plot of land makes sense, and more importantly, the addition of FunSpot's RMC Hybrid could force Six Flags' hand here. When FunSpot announced this ride, they announced a partnership with RMC. They didn't specify if it was just a one-off or not, but it seems like this may be a budding relationship between a growing chain and an uber-popular roller coaster manufacturer. When you drive down the interstates in Atlanta nowadays, fun spot billboards have begun popping up, and they're just as common as Six Flags advertisements nowadays. Could Six Flags try to kill the hype before people like myself decide to spend their money at Fun Spot? Possibly. I'm ranking this one at number 3 because I think we all sense a mini coaster war brewing in the state of Georgia. Not to mention Cheetah Hit Wild Adventures and what may be going on there. Georgia could realistically soon be home to 4 to 5 RMCs and the not too distant future. Number 2, an S&S Axis coaster. This coaster was shown off by S&S nearly 2 years ago and is yet to find its first home. Everybody has given their opinion on where the first one could be going, but I believe this park makes the most sense, whether it ends up on this plot of land or elsewhere in the future. This coaster model will allow Six Flags Over Georgia to fill the launch and spinning holes in their lineup, but just as importantly, have a world's first and record-breaking coaster to try to distract from the new kid on the block that's showing off all their new toys. While the Axis coaster kills 2 birds with 1 stone, this plot of land may be better equipped for a couple of other coaster models. And before you say Dr. Coaster can't count, number 1, a Mach Power Splash / Intamin Ultra Splash. Six Flags doesn't have much of a history working with either of these companies recently. Six Flags Over Texas will eventually decide to open Aquaman Power Wave, which according to their website, doesn't even exist. So there's that, I guess. This edition will give them a recent history with Mach, but this coaster was originally scheduled to open with their Dubai park, and was then moved to Texas when the plans fell apart. Six Flags also hasn't done any recent work with Intamin, but who saw a reunion with B&M being in the cards anytime soon? Intamin is looking to get their new models to market, and this plot of land could be perfect for their Ultra Splash model. Come to think of it, everything I said about the Raptor can also be applied here. Maybe Fun Spot builds a Raptor, and Six Flags and Intamin answer with the launch single rail somewhere in the park. Okay, enough daydreaming. Back to the number 1 slot. This plot of land already has infrastructure in place to support a water ride. Unless the plumbing was the reason for the ride's demise, this plot of land can easily be modified to accommodate for either of these ride models, and serve as an economical addition for Six Flags, who, let's be honest, obviously love saving a buck or two. Say what you will about Intamin's new coaster models, but the state of Georgia could be the first place we see one. Although I do believe the Mach Power Splash is the more likely and affordable option here. That'll do it for my top 5 replacements of Splashwater Falls. What do you think will be coming to this plot of land in the future? Let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to respond. Also, let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the future. If you enjoyed the video, then go ahead and leave it a like. And subscribe to my channel for more content like this. With that said, I'm also active on Instagram at Dr_Coaster, where I just hit 200 followers, so thank you so much for the support. I love to post other theme park and coaster related content there as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.